this doesn't hold true anymore. You can't make that assumption anymore. So basically, let's see if I have more time. Yeah, I still have some more time. So what all this comes down to is that this seems to have some kind of two realities. And what I mean with that is like we have the observe blah. This is reality. So we have the observable reality and the non-observable reality. But what I told you about the observable reality is that these are events. The observable reality is not stuff, it's events. The non-observable reality, what is that? Well, we don't know. And the reason is because it's not been observed. You get my point. We don't know what it is because we haven't observed it, but we can observe events. So we can infer that there is something. We can infer that from the events that there is something. But what this something is, we don't know. So there is kind of like this screen here. And this is reality. And then things happens in reality. Okay, there is an event here. Something happened. And then at a later point, something else happened over here. And at another point, something happens over here. And fortunately for us, we can, with mathematics, we can correlate these things with each other. With mathematics, we can do that. But we don't know what it is that makes these events happen. But we do know that they do happen. So what we can say about reality, here is where it gets very tricky. So I'm just going to state it without really explaining it. The early 20th century idea is that there is no persistent existence, but there is correlation between events. So what quantum mechanics says is like what the Greek was thinking about, like small building blocks, atoms. Quantum mechanics says like, nope, they don't exist. What exists is something, an event in space here, and then another event here, and then another event here. And what quantum mechanics says is that you can correlate them with each other. That's what quantum mechanics says. Now, remember, in the Greek, as I presented the Greek, is that space doesn't exist. Space is like space is a concept about a relation between objects, and that relation is called distance. So space is an abstract thing which only can be thought about two objects relative each other. And here comes another theory in that like totally demolished that idea, and that was Einstein's theory of Einstein's special relativity theory said that we actually have to take space into account. Einstein said we can't treat space as just being something that is defined as the distance between two objects, because if you say that here is one thing and here is one thing, and the space is merely that distance, but it actually do not exist, the space. What exists is the distance. What that means is that space is uniform everywhere. That means if you are over here, some far away from this place here, and this is a little bit tricky because I'm going to talk about what I'm going to define now, but I hope you understand what I mean. That distance here is the same as that distance, or rather you take these two here and displace them over to that place here, then that distance there will be the same. That's what it means. If objects are independent of space and you displace them in space uniformly, then that distance will be the same. What Einstein said is that no, that's not really true, and especially with general general relativity theory, which is taking into account gravitation. What Einstein said is like, if you displace this here to somewhere else in a gravitational field, then that space distance won't be the same anymore. The space can shrink or grow. Since I don't want to make a like several hour-long lecture, I'm just going to state that space became an entity of itself in the early 20th century, and stuff in space couldn't exist without space, and space itself couldn't exist without stuff in it, or rather more precisely energy, but it doesn't matter. That the thing is, the stuff that existed in space become intrinsically connected with space itself. And if we look at quantum mechanics, what it says is like the stuff we observe, they doesn't exist really. That's what it says. And what it says is, the quantum mechanics says, like, there is space and there is stuff going on in space. That's what quantum mechanics says. And then you could make observation about that stuff that goes on in that space. That's what quantum mechanics says. And but it sort of still treating things like objects, like small independent little things that I'm not going to use the word mo, but is correlated. So I lost the recording there in the end, and I'm just going to wrap up things here with a little conclusion and summary. First of all, there is a paradigm shift between the pre-20th century thinking and the early 20th century thinking. In that respect, that the Greek was thinking about objects as something real that existed, and space as something that did not exist. In the early 20th century, it becomes a little bit chaotic, the thinking, but what they turn around this concept, and space is now said to exist, and the stuff that was in space is said to not exist anymore. So it's like a total reversal of thinking here. But since this is still the early 20th century, physics is still very confused about what it is they actually observing, and they are still hanging on to this idea that there are some small fundamental objects there, and whether that is particles or waves, they don't really know, but they still don't have a full grasp of what or how they should think about reality. And that understanding is maturing during the entire 20th century, and it basically ends up in quantum field theory that tries to reconcile the old way with the new way, and to get a better understanding on what actually is going on the quantum mechanical level. And that's going to be the last part, where I'm going to go through the late 20th century thinking. And after that, I plan to go on to speculation a little bit about what reality is about, and possibilities, how that may exist. So, yeah, like I said already in the beginning, this is not an easy topic. It's very complicated, and yeah, stop recording for now.